Hello friends, and thank you so much for coming back to the channel. And as most gardeners are probably doing right now, they are making their way to their local nurseries. If you are local to the Nebraska Omaha area, this is Tree Shrubs and More, probably one of my favorite nurseries. And I kid you not, the prices here are just like, you cannot beat the big box stores. That is one thing that you want to do, is head to your local nurseries, your local farm stands, just to look for plants. One, you're going to have way more variety, but two, the deals are just going to be so much better, trust me. So our main goal in this trip is to buy compost, but I cannot help myself and I have to visit. Now, we did make a trip to the big box store just to see if we could maybe find a better deal on compost. But as always, the local nursery will always win when it comes to prices. Now, the one thing I did find was these trees. Now, we currently live in a rental, and is there any way that you can grow a tree in a pot? Because if you can, I am grabbing a peach tree because I want it. Now, we made a stroll through the vegetable section just to see the prices and compare. Now, this big tomato is $20, and at the time, it was completely out of season. It's just way better to buy a packet. Now, the compost that we use is homegrown. That is just local to us. We've used it in our garden before, and I have had no problem with it. Now, we will definitely be making a trip back for more, but we only filled up as much as we could for the back of the car. Compost may be the biggest expense we have annually, but it isn't that much of a big deal just because we start so much on the inside, and we did make a big investment to be able to grow all of our starts from the indoor. So in the long run, I do not mind at the current time buying compost for our backyard garden. So now that we have all of the compost, it is time to put it in the bed. Now, I did not do this very well, okay? I have no idea why I'm using that little cultivator just to open this bag, but hey, it worked, okay? And sometimes you just use what you got. So when I fill raised beds, I really don't want to disturb the soil underneath because that is what really brings up those weeds. So what I'll do is probably just weed out the weeds I can see on top, and then I am going to put this over it and then just make sure that I manage anything that's coming on top. Now, so far I have seen success with this method, but do what works for you. This is just what works for me. It's probably more so of a lazy way of gardening, but hey, it works. Don't knock it till you try it. And if you have not seen already, my son copies everything that I do, and I guess that's a good thing when it comes to the garden. Now, before I can fill up all the beds, I do have to remove some carrots that I did plant in the fall. And honestly, if I would have kept letting them grow, they would have probably grown a little bit bigger. But for now, we're just gonna remove them so that we can grow more food in this spot. Now, when it comes to the amount of compost you want to put in your bed, it really just depends on how much garden space you've got going on. For me, in this bed we're looking at now, I put 3 cubic feet in there, which honestly I probably could have done with one more. But at this point, it's just looking really good, and I think I'm fine with what I have so far. So this is the finished product of everything in the bed, and honestly, it just looks so good, and it makes me so excited to actually put things in here and to get everything growing. Here we are the next day, and I don't know why I picked the coldest day to put things in the ground, but it had to be done. Now let me tell you, these onions were looking real scraggly, okay, from the very beginning. So I am just hoping and praying that these bad boys really just whip back into shape. Right now, I'm just planting shallots all along this bed, which is going to end up being my brassica bed. Now, right here is my celery. I did start these in soil blocks. However, I got lazy and I put them in this bin, this takeout container. It had no holes in it, and look, the roots are wild, okay, wild. So I'm really hoping that this celery makes it through. You can still kind of fill the blocks, but I'm just trying to crumble everything and like really nicely get the roots of the celery. So your girl can have celery, okay? As you can see, I was very happy with how this one came out, and I just made sure that I made a hole just big enough for the soil block to go in, and I stuck it in, pat it in the ground, and Called that bad boy done, okay? It was too cold. Now, for the variety of this celery, it is not like your normal celery that you would find in the grocery stores. This is a cut and come again celery, so you're not going to do like a bumps in the log on it. It's really more for these tiny stems and the leaves, which is great for us. We're going to use them in soups, we're going to use them in salads, we're going to use them in anything that you would use celery in. Into this bed is the Napa cabbage. Whoa. Now, the Napa cabbage looks real hard, like it is struggling. So I'm hoping getting it into the ground will help it do better. Fingers crossed, but I mean, that's the thing about gardening. You never know, but plants are more resilient than you think. So I'm thinking that everything will bounce back with time. So I'm going to kind of interweave these. I'm also thinking about putting the Brunswick cabbage with it as well, but I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. Long story short, I did not put the Brunswick cabbage in here because I want to make sure that everything has space to grow. So the Napa cabbage actually came out really good. I was very happy with the blocks, even though it looks like it is struggling, but we've got them in here, and hopefully them being in the ground, having more space will really help them bounce back. Fingers crossed. Now, here is the seed snail of the lettuce. This is a rocky top lettuce, and I put it in the ground like the creator had suggested, so it just grew in the soil as I waited. But this looks really good, and as always, maybe moisten this up a little bit. I did not do this to this one, but that's definitely going to help the roots come out way better and make them easier just to handle getting them into the ground. Now, I was always told not to actually transplant lettuce because when you put it in the ground, it would bolt. However, and spoiler alert, this lettuce is actually doing really well, and I will definitely start them with this method over again because they took so well and I started so many in such a small tiny space. So the next day was way warmer than the day before. Welcome to Nebraska Springs. But I decided to pick some dandelions. Now we have on purpose not mowed our back lawn so that we could harvest dandelions. Now there are so many benefits when it comes to dandelions. They're very good to help detox your liver, and just do your research. I can't remember off the top everything it does, but you can eat these from flower to root to leaf, and they are so good to add to your diets. Dandelions are also one of the first flowers that come up for the bees, so make sure that you leave some. Now we've also got some rhubarb growing in the garden. Now it is not very big. I have not fertilized this. It could be bigger, but we will try. And here are dandelions dried. If you want to know how to use them, let me know and I will make a video. Now the next day was a cooler day, but it was time for us to really work on cleaning up the backyard from winter. We haven't done anything back here, and you can really tell. Now this is a greenhouse I actually got for Christmas, but the wind just utterly destroyed it. So we're gonna try to find a way to use it somehow in the garden still. One of the first things that we do is find all of the wood, because there is a pile that we put in the back of our yard so that we can have firewood that falls from any of the trees in the yards, or actually the trees around us. Now this is the very first mow of the season. What we usually do with our grass clippings is that we do save them in a pile and put them for mulch, but for the first few cuts we do just put it right back in the grass. So welcome to the left side of our garden. Over here we have 3 8x4 beds, and the last 2 are just covered and filled with lamb's quarter. Now lamb's quarter is completely edible. Some people call it a wild spinach. It really does taste like spinach. We have cooked with it before, but I just don't need it here, so I'm gonna start tilling it up so I can fertilize these beds, and we can put compost, and we can start putting something in the ground over here. So here is the finished product so far. I just till it up, and then I'm gonna come back through and pick it up. I'll probably do it one more time before we actually put our compost in the bed. And now I am just adding some fertilizer to the soil. This is Earth Care Plus. It is I've definitely seen a difference in my clay-like soil just because this also has sand. So it definitely helps make this a little bit looser and not as compact. You can buy this at Home Depot, Walmart, and online. And I suggest do not do this in high winds because that will happen. Now, one of the areas we have is an in-ground area, and I planted dill here once and it reseeded itself over and over again. Literally, it is everywhere. So this year, I'm going to just transplant it to different places in the yard so that I can have dill in specific areas, and I'm going to make sure that I can just completely stay on top of the dill so we do not have a dill forest in the middle area, very much like we had last year. And because it is spring, you never know what the weather may
This is it right here. That's the base. This is the wall cloud right here. The whole thing out here. You know, you've got houses in there.
My husband is now on the phone with his mom, who lives in that direction. Was on the phone with our big kid, who is currently out in that direction. And it is insane.